again to everybody who watches me. Well, here we are, once again, end of October, and you know what that means.
Happy Halloween.
Or at least, the best we can manage in this fucking pandemic.
And if one of them has got it, then 10 of them have got it, then we're in deep fucking shit.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Been an interesting month of horror reviews. Today, to wrap out the month, I'm going back at it solo, and once again, we return to the iconic Halloween franchise. I see no reason anybody should object.
How dare you review Halloween movies around Halloween, just like me?
Did you hear something? After the pretty negative reaction to the dumpster fire that was Halloween 5, executive producer Mustafa Akkad decided to take a few years and reevaluate the Halloween franchise.
Let's go, I'm bored, let's go.
And 6 years later, in 1995, everybody got back together and decided it was time for another go. And if you thought they were running out of ideas with Halloween 5, the movie that introduced Michael Myers having a psychic connection with his niece, then they were really out of ideas when it came time to make Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers.
Huge bonfires were lit, hoping to ward off the evil, especially the boogeyman.
Halloween, the Curse of Michael Myers, or Halloween 666 as it was at one point known, is one of the more infamous Halloween movies. A lot of people don't like Halloween 5, but it has its defenders. I'm not one of them. But a lot of people universally agree Halloween, the Curse of Michael Myers is one of the worst entries in the franchise. And the main reason for that can be attributed to its really troublesome production history. Still executive produced and presented by Mustafa Akkad, Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers found a new distributor in Dimension Films, one of the many film companies founded by Bob and Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, the Halloween franchise was now in the hands of the Weinstein brothers.
Let's just move on, shall we?
Looking for a new director and writer to breathe some life into the franchise. Many people were considered for director, including apparently at one point Peter Jackson. Also considered was Scott Spiegel, the co-writer of Evil Dead 2, and allegedly, when Spiegel was set to direct, Quentin Tarantino was gonna write the screenplay. I am really curious how that would have turned out.
The very best there is. When you absolutely, positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitutes.
You wanna save the town? Then shoot that nigger dead!
And ultimately, the directing and writing duties went to director Joe Chappelle, and the screenplay was written by Daniel Farrands, a self-proclaimed huge fan of the Halloween franchise, which is interesting because Joe Chappelle made it pretty clear that he was not a fan of the Halloween movies, and the only reason he was directing was it got him a 3-picture deal with the Weinsteins and their company Miramax.
Must be the money. Turns everything to crap, you know, but Jesus Christ.
Farrands, I'll give him this, was pretty creative in his script writing because he really wanted to work off of everything that had happened so far in the Halloween franchise, sans Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. But, and he has admitted that he went too far with this idea, he decided to make a Halloween film that explored the character of Michael Myers and his backstory, which really goes against what John Carpenter set out to do when he created the character. But at this point, the Halloween franchise had really run its course with the slasher killer motif and decided to try and go into supernatural territory. To quickly run through the plot, at the end of Halloween 5, Michael Myers was captured by the police, but then a mysterious man in black, who we saw throughout the film, showed up, shot up the police station, and broke Myers out. The Man in Black was a weird and not really relevant to the plot character, and even the makers of Halloween 5 admit they had no idea how this character was connected to Michael Myers. They just wanted to throw in a mysterious character. And along with the weird symbol that appeared on Michael Myers' wrist, Daniel Farrands, going off of everything he saw, cooked up this storyline where it was revealed that the reason that Michael Myers never talks, never connects with anybody, and appears to be fucking indestructible is because when he was a little kid, he was cursed by a cult known as the Thorn Cult.
Sure. Why not?
And while some people think it was necessary to bring in the supernatural shit to explain how Michael Myers can survive just about anything, this really breaks the mysterious image we had of the character. And as for Michael's niece, Jamie Lloyd, we find out she disappeared the night he was broken out of prison, and she was abducted by this cult as well. The film opens with Jamie, now much older and now played by J.C. Brandy, in what appears to be a hospital and very pregnant. She's wheeled into some kind of cave altar where Jamie gives birth, and one particular cult member, I guess suddenly having a change of heart, helps her escape.
Save your baby! Go, now!
And then is quickly killed by Michael. Jamie makes a run for it, and before Michael catches up with her, she leaves the baby in a bus station and makes a phone call to a radio DJ calling for help, and her call is overheard by none other than Dr. Loomis, played for the last time by Donald Pleasence.
Dr. Loomis, are you out there? Can you hear me, Dr. Loomis? I need your help.
Please.
Another person listening in to the call is Tommy Doyle, the now grown-up boy who Laurie Strode was babysitting in the original Halloween, played in this film by Paul Ant-Man Rudd. In his film debut,
I was only 8 years old when I saw him, but I was one of the lucky ones.
Michael catches Jamie, and even though the character was pretty annoying in Halloween 5, her death is very brutal and... J.C. Brandy, give her this. She plays a terrified girl pretty well, and it is a little bit sad.
You can't have the baby, Michael.
The next day on Halloween, we see the only living relatives of Laurie Strode's adoptive family. Kara Strode, played by Marianne Hagan, her son Danny Strode, played by Devin Gardner, and her parents, John and Deborah, named after John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, played by Bradford English, and Kim Darby. Yes, that Kim Darby.
No grit, Rooster Cogburn, not much.
Man, Maddie got old. We find out that Haddonfield, for the first time since Jamie disappeared, is having a big Halloween festival as a way of saying that Halloween is back and they won't let the fear of Michael Myers rule them.
They're all gonna die. All about him!
While this is going on, Tommy locates Jamie's baby, and Dr. Loomis, assisted by an old associate named Dr. Wynn, played by Mitchell Ryan, appear in town trying to locate Michael Myers. And eventually all these connected characters from different necks of the wood come together, leading to a really fucking confusing finale. The thing that really makes the Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers not work is the fact that it is a clusterfuck of two different versions of the film. Daniel Farrands' original script had a lot of heavy focus on the Thorn Cult and the subject of runes, how they tied into Michael Myers' backstory, and after a pretty negative test screening, which according to Marianne Hagan consisted mostly of 14-year-old boys, interesting demographic. Can't think of many movie studios that would invite a bunch of 14-year-olds to a heavy R-rated film. The studio decided to put the film back in production and reshoot a ton of scenes and give the film a different ending. Unfortunately, after having already completed the original cut of the film, Donald Pleasence had passed away, already having been very ill during filming. They ended up reshooting about 45 minutes worth of the film, completely changing the ending, and still, out of respect for Donald Pleasence, trying to find a way to work his original footage into the climax in a way that made sense.
I have a little business to attend to here.
Joe Chappelle, for the theatrical release, cut out most of Donald Pleasence's scenes because he apparently found Pleasence as Dr. Loomis boring. Hey, Joe Chappelle.
If you don't find him in 4 hours, I'm sure I will.
And what we got with the final cut of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, is a pretty messy editing nightmare. The film is filled with a bunch of fast editing and really flashy, almost seizure-inducing cuts. And to show that this is the 90s, we now get a almost rock version of the Halloween theme.
Help me, please! Help me!
And before anyone jumps on defending the music scoring because it's done by Alan Howarth, John Carpenter's former protege, a lot of the music put in the reshot version was not done by Howarth.
What the fuck is wrong with Hollywood?
The climax has it be revealed that Dr. Wynn, Loomis's former colleague, is the Man in Black from Part 5 and the leader of the Thorn cult. They abduct Kara, Danny, and the baby, who Tommy decided to name Steven, because I guess he's the new daddy. Loomis figures out that they must have taken them to Smith's Grove, the mental institution Michael was kept at for 15 years. Loomis confronts Wynn, who tries to persuade Loomis to join them.
I thought Michael was a monster. But you...
Loomis is knocked out, leaving him out of the climax almost entirely.
Oh, that ain't right.
After a random encounter with a brown-toothed crazy bitch.
He's very angry.
Tommy saves Kara from a padded room. The two come across Wynn and the other cult members preparing to do some kind of surgery involving Danny and Steven. But before they can do it, Michael shows up and pretty much the fuck out of nowhere butchers, chops up, just shreds the cult of doctors to pieces. Never explain why, he just does. Tommy and Kara take this opportunity to save the kids, make a run for it, and we get an unbelievably silly fight in which Tommy drugs Michael, and after a quick hit from Kara, we get a just hysterical scene of Tommy clubbing Michael over the head repeatedly with a pipe, and just when you think it's over, he's like, better just get a few more in to be safe. While that's going on, Loomis appears in footage from the original ending, helping Kara and Danny escape. After finishing his inglorious bastard beatdown of Michael, we fade to black, and then we abruptly cut to them on the outside, asking Loomis to come with them. Loomis says he can't, he has unfinished business, and they just kind of accept this and drive off. We cut to the room where Tommy beat down Michael. We see his mask on the ground, implying he's still alive. And then we hear Loomis scream in agony, which... I don't know why he's screaming. Is he screaming because Michael's still alive? Is Michael killing him? We don't find out, and then it just cuts to a shot of the Strode house, a well-carved jack-o'-lantern, and then boom! End credits, a dedication to Donald Pleasence, which, considering how it came out, feels more like an insult. Daniel Farrans admits that his original ending was lacking a bit of excitement, but the new ending, the new scenes, the change of tone and music that went into the theatrical cut made it a very confusing film. Donald Pleasence, well, I'm very happy that he's not playing it as crazy as he did in Halloween 5. Almost feels pointless in this film, which I guess you can thank Joe Chappelle for that. He plays the character well, but it's nothing that we haven't already seen. Paul Rudd, he's not given a lot to work with, and I don't think he's bad in this, but what they gave him to do and the direction I assume he was given resulted in the character of Tommy becoming a very creepy son of a bitch. I mean, the guy's first scene is him peeping on his neighbor. It's one of those cases where you wonder, is this really supposed to be our protagonist? And also, it's really hard to buy that this is Tommy Doyle grown up. The filmmakers actually wanted Brian Andrews, who played Tommy in the original Halloween, to come back, but he didn't have an agent and they couldn't find him, so it didn't happen, and Andrews later said he wishes he could have been involved. The character of Dr. Wynn, the leader of the Thorn Cult, is actually a character that's appeared before. In the first Halloween, you see Dr. Loomis arguing with a fellow doctor after Michael Myers escapes, and that's Dr. Wynn, but played by Robert Phelan, and I guess the filmmakers wanted a more well-known villain actor to play the character, so they went with Mitchell Ryan, who many might recognize from Lethal Weapon. The character of Kara Strode is probably my favorite character in the film. Marion Hagen has a genuine warmth to her performance, and she really comes off like a caring mother who would do anything to protect her kid, and has been put through a very miserable, abusive upbringing. Devin Gardner as Danny Strode. This kid actually gives a pretty decent performance. He says his lines well. The character, while a little weird, never reaches the levels of that demonic little shit from New Nightmare. Bradford English as Kara's dad, John, does a great job playing a completely detestable cunt.
Get away from her! You shut up.
Well, it doesn't have a lot of motivation. You hate this character from the beginning, and the scene where Danny pulls a knife on his grandfather for hitting his mother, I'll admit that was kind of a touching moment. Twisted, but touching. And as much as you hate this character, he does get a pretty sweet death scene. Kim Darby as Deborah Strode. We don't get a lot of her, but she was honestly one of the few characters that was likable. And I'll admit, her death scene, along with Jamie's, are the only really sad moments in the film. The only character and actor that I feel really falls short is Dr. Wynn, and that could be a mixture of scenes getting cut and rearranged, but he just doesn't come off that interesting here, and Mitchell Ryan, he doesn't have enough material to really work with. One entertaining, albeit pointless part of the film is a shock jock who visits the Halloween festival named Barry Sims. There's not a lot to this character. He's there, he gets killed, but we do get a few pretty funny lines.
I bet she wears crotchless panties and barks like a dog. Bet.
And for anyone wondering what the original climax to the 6th Halloween film was, the original cut, which went unreleased for about 20 years, unless you knew some crazy bootleggers, was dubbed the producer's cut, which I've never heard of any movie having one of those before. It did get an official Blu-ray release a couple of years ago, and people were finally able to, in mass groups, see the original ending. The producer's cut ending, instead of having Kara wake up in a padded room at Smith's Grove, had her waking up on a concrete slab surrounded by members of the Thorn Cult. The cult plans to have Michael kill the baby Stephen and pass the curse that gave him immortality onto Danny, and then have Danny kill his own mother to start his killing curse streak.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard of.
In this scene, we find out who the father of Stephen is.
You know whose baby it is, don't you?
It turns out Michael Myers, Jamie's uncle is the father of her baby.
The baby is yours, isn't it? Isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, that's
disgusting.
Tommy busts in and saves Kara, dragging her, Danny, and Tommy away, using runes to stop Michael from following them because this film really wanted to go with the evil cult shit. Dr. Loomis, once again, decides to stay behind. He finds what appears to be Michael on the ground and turns out to be Dr. Wynn, who has switched masks with Michael. Wynn dies, but before he does, tells Loomis that he is now the leader of the cult. And we see the symbol of the thorn cult appear on Loomis's wrist, causing him to scream out as Michael gets away.
Oh, what a bummer, man. That was the worst fucking movie I've ever seen.
Daniel Farrands thinks both the theatrical cut and the producer's cut are very poor, but he prefers the producer's cut because it's a little less confusing.
Power of the runes stopped him.
Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers is a jumbled-ass mess of a film, but it's not as annoying as Halloween 5, and I can't really say I hate this movie. In the end, it's just forgettable. This is probably the second least impactful entry in the Halloween franchise. The actors do mostly good jobs, and I'll give Joe Chappelle this. For a guy who did not like the Halloween franchise, he did a good job creating a few actually tense sequences. And I will stand by this, it is 10 times more watchable than Rob Zombie's Halloween remake.
That's all that fucker does is cry. Crying shit. Crying shit.
Mr. Nichols touched me the wrong way. Oh! Look at this, Mom.
Lori!
I'm sorry. Okay.
I just think it's interesting that the guy who proclaimed that he's not a fan of the Halloween franchise made a more passable horror film than the guy who supposedly lives, breathes, eats, and shits horror on a daily basis.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
But he still makes his mistakes here and there. I mean, did anyone else notice that Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers don't share any scenes together?
God damn. What the hell somebody gotta do to get a little decent help up in this motherfucker?
So that's my final review of October in 2020. A pretty big horror show of a year, even before we reach the month of horror, and hope these reviews have been enjoyable. Hope everybody is doing well in this pretty stressful time. I will see you soon. The month of horror may be over, but in a few weeks we'll be getting Friday the 13th, and you know what that means.
Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Here are your names. Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Pink.
Why am I Mr. Pink?
Because you're a faggot, all right?